Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to Character Corner number 2. This week I have Liquid and Nan with me, and today we're going to be going over the Metroid series. So remember to stay till the end of this episode to vote for next week's. Now, Metroid, as far as I know, did 100% win last week. I know it was a tie, so I asked Liquid to vote because he wanted Metroid to happen. And there's a...
manipulation.
Yeah. So I'm sure, as you all know, there's a lot of controversy surrounding Metroid and its representation in Smash, and I guess we'll just get to that first off, about what you guys think about that whole situation, on people's opinions on that.
So wait, are we talking about the big one, or are we talking about the lack of representation?
I think we'll talk about the big one at the end. We'll talk about the lack of representation first.
Okay. Yeah, I get people's complaints. At the same time, it's kind of a Zelda situation. The main character of Metroid and the one that's always there is Samus, so she makes sense as the big rep. And, I mean, having two of her, I guess, kind of also works like that, because it's always her that's in every single game. She's like the one big recurring feature, apart from the Metroids, but you can't really make them playable. But it'd be nice to have other reps, don't get me wrong. It'd be nice to have it. But with giant monsters being everywhere, and usually what she fights in the end, I can understand also why they found it difficult to add more characters.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Liquid?
Yeah, I agree with what Nan said, but it's really unfortunate because, you know, Metroid has quite a large cast. So many things that could be adapted into Smash, but, you know, different circumstances make them not viable. You know, it's really unfortunate.
Yeah. And so I guess first off, when it comes to the characters we're going to discuss, I set aside a whole entire section for Liquid's big character. And so, Liquid, I'll let you go off on Sylux real quick.
Well, let me preface this with a simple fact. It's not likely to happen right now. I mean, yes, the statement from Kensuke Tanabe at E3 2015 that, oh, we want to make a game with Samus and Sylux, you know. I mean, that honestly made me elated as hell, but you know what? It's just proof of concept right now. I mean, it puts it above every other one-shot in the series right now, but at best, it's just a small boost. It's really not going to help it that much unless Sakurai somehow considers it.
So go over for people who Sylux's character is, what game they appear in, for people that might not know.
All right, Sylux is one of the bounty hunters from Metroid Prime Hunters, the spin-off to the Prime series that was on the Nintendo DS. Awesome game, by the way. You should totally play it. So, the background for the character. You know, we actually don't know a whole lot about Sylux. The most we do know is it hates the Galactic Federation, it hates Samus, it steals some of their tech, and, you know, it has a vendetta against all parties. So, yeah, and we know that it's following Samus, as evidenced by Metroid Prime 3's ending.
Sylux is one of the better hunters in Metroid Prime Hunters. Out of all of them, I think Sylux and Weevil are the two most memorable for me.
Yeah.
Although I like playing as the one that could turn into a Beyblade, whose name I just don't remember because he's not that memorable otherwise. It's Noxus, yeah. See, Noxus is the only other one I quite enjoyed, but out of all of them, Weevil and Sylux are the only two who could likely reappear, and because they're the only ones who have some sort of connection with Samus, and Sylux is the only one that's had any sort of hint towards reappearing.
Yeah, and you know,
which definitely gives him.
Yeah,
sorry, go on.
No, that's fine. Even from the beginning, they really wanted to emphasize Sylux more compared to the other hunters. I even noticed this when I played the game back in 2006. I still have my original game cartridge after 10 years. Yeah, Sylux is, for one, the only character to have their ship appear, barring Weevil's that appears for 3 seconds in the Oblique cutscene, and the only one that uses it in battle, not mind you. And it's the character with the most expandable backstory, and the one that's the most interesting, so to say. Like, hey, we've got this mysterious enemy of the Galactic Federation and Samus. Oh, we should leave it here, and, you know, in case we want to expand on it later, which is what that comment from E3 2015 was going.
Yeah. Well, Sylux's whole character, like, moveset-wise, he's electrical-based, isn't he? I don't remember what his Morph Ball style attack is.
His main weapon is... It doesn't have a confirmed gender. I have to keep reminding myself that. It's a personal rule I stick to. Anyway, its main weapon is the shock coil. It's a life-draining electricity weapon. And we have very few of those in Smash, and the ones that we do have are passive, Ness, Lucas, or very short range like Robin's Nosferatu. So a ranged, life-draining weapon, that would be interesting. And
now, don't you have an entire article on Source Gaming about Sylux?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So just go over some of that and what you think his moveset could be.
So what I advocate for Sylux is, Sakurai loves to take creative liberties when designing Smash characters, so my idea of a Sylux moveset is taking every single hunter's weapon and incorporating into Sylux's moveset. So you have an ice shotgun, a lobbing projectile, the battle hammer, and the sniper rifle is the Imperialist, of course. A sniper rifle, the Imperialist, an ice shotgun, the Judicator, a fast electric weapon, the Volt Driver, a lobbing weapon, and the battle hammer. I think the Magmal is the same thing, but you can adapt it for a different function, and obviously the shot coil. So you mesh all of these weapons and you give Sylux a projectile-heavy moveset, not unlike Mega Man or Mii Gunner. But the difference is Sylux has more of a, in my eyes at least, it has more of a trap set of moves and is able to better deal damage at long range because of the sniper. And when I say trap, it's because, the Morph Ball, no, not Morph Ball, the Lockjaw, that's its alt mode. The Lockjaw deploys nodes that, when you deploy more than one, it forms an electric rail. If you deploy 3, the electric rail crushes the opponent. So in that case, you can make a very effective keep-away game, but if someone gets close, you spring the trap and damage them. That's my idea for it.
Dude, I mean, I admire your dedication to this character, thinking that hard about it. That's incredible, dude. That's more in-depth than I've seen most people come up with movesets for characters.
No, and honestly, I already had a template to work off of. I mean, I'm going to go off topic for a moment, and I'll keep it brief.
That's what the show's pretty much all is.
I played PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale for about 2 years, and my main in that game was Colonel Raddick from Killzone. So, he's my absolute favorite character. So, when I saw Colonel Raddick's character, I loved him. He had a sniper rifle, several electric projectiles for zoning, lobbing weapons. So, I modeled the moveset based on his moves. It was quite easy, really.
Well, as long as he's not as broken as Colonel Raddick was,
he's not
all of his long-range attacks.
He is not broken compared to the other characters. No, you do.
All right, yeah. Well, they're all pretty broken. Dante and Kratos are especially broken as well. I can't argue any of that.
All right, so our next character that we have lined up is from Metroid Other M, which is a very controversial game. I never played it because of many people telling me not to. So you guys both have, correct?
Yes.
Yep, I have.
All right. This character is Anthony Higgs.
Well, I want to talk about it briefly, but I've got a better rep, which Liquid knows about. But I'll bring up Anthony first. So he's like Samus's close friend from when she was back in the Federation.
Remember me?
Remember me? This big black guy with a huge cannon on his back, essentially, and he shows up, helps Samus out, assists her in the Ridley fight, and I guess spoilers for Other M, he's the only other one to survive the end of the game with Samus.
Boo-hoo.
So he has a chance of reappearing in future games.
So people don't like his character, from what I know, or do they just not like the game?
I think people. I don't think people have a problem with Anthony, not like the other character that I'm gonna bring up in a sec. I think he's a fine character. He's a bit of a meme because of his trailer. But otherwise, I don't think anyone has a serious problem with him. He's definitely a good candidate for a Federation rep.
I honestly have no particular comments on Anthony. I mean, he's not as bad as the other guy, but, I wouldn't actually advocate for him. Honestly, that's it, really. Okay,
well then I guess I'll jump into the other guy, and as I'll preface this by saying I know this is an unpopular opinion, but as much as Liquid is a big fan of Sylux, I personally am actually a big fan of Adam from Other M. And my reasoning behind Adam is that I know Other M, some of the decisions they chose to make with him are very controversial and stupid. But as a character himself, I don't think he's that bad, and he's very, very important to Samus's backstory. Other M was not his first game. He was first mentioned in Fusion, and technically her ship, the AI, I don't know whether they established that it's actually like his mind or whether it's just based on his mind. But he has a chance, for, at least in his AI form, to show up in future games as well. And in the Metroid Origins manga, which is confirmed canon, I'm pretty sure.
It is.
It goes. Adam appears in that as well. That's his first actual appearance as a human, and he gets quite a good chunk of parts of it when Samus is in the Federation. Even doing stuff. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to go off my memory, but he shows up towards the end and saves her, like with a big fleet hunting down the space pirates, and he's pretty cool in that. And then, so I was really excited to see him in Other M, and he's fine in Other M. I don't like how they handled his death scene because I find it really anticlimactic. But he's clearly an important character, and he's clearly a character that the creator of Metroid, Sakamoto?
Yeah, Sakamoto.
Is that right? Yeah, it's clearly a character that he had in his mind, a character who he wanted to be a big part of Metroid. And as a Federation representative, I think he's the best choice because he's the most important one in the series.
So, Liquid, what's your issue with the character?
Well, honestly, these are just personal nitpicks. On an objective level, yes, I can completely agree that Adam would be logical, but these are mostly my opinions. I know I'm going to anger a few people, but for one, very few people like Adam because his characterization and all. And for another, well, honestly, let's be completely fair here. He honestly doesn't do much. Hey, I'm a dude with a gun. Yeah. You never actually see him engage in combat, honestly. So
doesn't he? He has the ice. I believe he has the ice pistols, and he does use it at one point. It's like the only weapon apart from Anthony's big gun that I remember them using at all in that game.
Yeah. Well, he also has a sort of paralyzer pistol that he used to disarm Samus's power suit at one point, but I honestly don't see how that could be adapted to Smash. Honestly,
well,
it's possible, but go on.
Well, so this is where my somewhat justification for Adam comes in, and that's because we've got a new Metroid game coming up that's based all around the Federation, being Federation Force.
Yes. And
we have no idea if Adam's going to be in that. He may not be if they want to base it around Metroid Prime, because he's never been in Metroid Prime before. So I can completely understand him not being there. But with the Metroid Prime Federation Force, the whole idea is to expand the universe and expand what the Federation is about. And so there's going to be a lot of new weapons, a lot of new things brought in that may very well make for a good Smash character. I can't 100% say whether it will or not without having played the game. But in that game, all you get to do is play as generic Federation grunts.
Yeah.
And they could also easily be put into Smash as a character. Chibi Federation grunt as another Metroid.
Ugh, me costumes, please.
But if they want to have an actual character to be a rep for Federation, they could easily take stuff from Federation Force and apply it to Adam as a character.
Yeah.
And he can have his paralyzer gun as his standard B if they want, and then have whatever else is going to be available to the player as the rest of his moves.
Yeah, that's completely fair.
Yeah, I guess the argument against them, though, is that there are some bigger, pun intended, reps that could be chosen for Metroid in the future instead of, Adam.
Well, this would be the Federation Force or Federation Trooper rep in my eyes, just because I do see him as the only one that could sort of fit that other than Anthony.
Yeah. Alright, so our next character is straight from the Prime series, which is Dark Samus, who appears as the final boss in Metroid Prime 2 and is the main antagonist of Metroid Prime 3. What do you guys think of Dark Samus?
Yeah, I think Dark Samus would have been a really cool choice, especially after seeing her assist trophy.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a reasoning behind why she's not included, and I'll say that afterwards, I guess. I was having a conversation with a friend about it, and it suddenly made me realise something. But Liquid, what about you?
I'd like to hear your points first. They might overlap with mine.
Okay. Well, I like her as a character. I think she has potential, but I do think that she is so similar to design-wise and how she looks to Samus that she would be too similar to her silhouette. So the idea is that because in Smash there's a lot of things happening at once and you might lose track of your characters, every character is designed to look somewhat different. They've designed to have different silhouettes. The only exception to this are clone characters. Because as a clone character, even if you lose somewhat track of what's going on, you'll still have an understanding of how to play and your character will still react the way it should react. But with Dark Samus, if Dark Samus and Samus looked identical but played completely differently, then it may get confusing for the player when there's a lot going on at screen, when they think they're seeing Dark Samus but they're actually seeing Samus, and it reacts completely like they want to do a whatever recovery or whatever, and it doesn't work, or it goes off wrong for them because of how similar they look. And I know I'm not justifying it well because I'm just trying to get the words properly, but I could see that as an issue that Sakurai might see, that they do look a bit too similar to be different, but they doesn't want to make them clones either, because Dark Samus isn't technically a clone of Samus.
I see your point there.
All right.
Liquid, what you got?
All right, so you got some of my points there, but I have a different perspective on it. For one, Metroid only has 2 characters, and they're named Samus. So, adding a third Samus, as far as my theory goes, would be somewhat redundant to the team. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at the series that are currently in Smash 4, so those that have clones don't even have 2 of the same character. Mario, Dr. Mario, Link, Toon Link, Pit, and Dark Pit, and every other one. And I can hear the Fire Emblem joke coming from a mile away. Oh, Roy and Lucine are Marth clones. They're not called Marth. There's a difference. So, yeah, that's really the most important thing here. They didn't want to create redundancy. And for another, Dark Samus is kind of dead and irrelevant, and they are confirmed her story is done and all that.
Yeah.
Those two are the only other significant points that I would add to that.
Yeah. If you completely ignore those points for a second, what I do find interesting about Dark Samus was I always thought of her as, we're just going to get if it's going to be a character, it's going to be a Samus clone. But with the Sis Trophy, I saw that they do see her as like a unique character, which I found pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. She does show a lot off in her Sis Trophy. I could easily see if they do it, if there is a Project 4 and they want to add new characters using the models available, that Dark Samus could easily be added as one of the first ones. Mm-hmm. Because they could easily map her over Samus, but then give her some of her Assist Trophy attacks as specials.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That'd be really cool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think we can all agree that Dark Samus, their story's done, there's not much to do there, and there's, as we've said with most of the past reps, there's better choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just a shame, because she'd have been cool.
Yeah, I would have loved her.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's get to probably the whole entire second half of this episode, which is, as we all know, Ridley himself.
Oh boy.
The big one. I have jokes written down that I could talk about, but I think I'm going to stop. So, Ridley, I was huge on Ridley during Smash 4 speculation. I didn't really care too much for the character. I thought the fan base was nice, so I supported them. And I was completely on with the whole shadow theories on that happening. I was convinced by people. I ended up being wrong. But yeah, as we know, Ridley is a boss. He's said to be too big for the game. And of course, we all have our different opinions on that. So what do you guys think? We'll start with Nan.
Ridley would have been nice, but I completely understand where Sakurai is coming from behind it. Because, yeah, like I said earlier, having monster characters with all of Samus's arch enemies being monsters, essentially, they're huge and they're not really fit to try and play. And I know people do arguments like, oh, Bowser, blah, blah, blah. Well, Bowser's much more humanized and much more anthropomorphic and hasn't killed Mario's parents. So, Ridley doesn't come across much as someone who could be playable. He comes more across like a mindless boss, even though he is more than that in the series. Mm-hmm. I know people have argued about his size and stuff, and how in the opening to Melee he's smaller, in the original Metroid he's smaller. And hey, if they want to go with the original Metroid, Ridley, I'm perfectly fine with that. Thing looks so stupid, it's amazing.
What do you think? I'll get to mine after you.
Oh, okay. as far as I see it at this point, Ridley getting in is dependent on one of two things. First, Sakurai changing his mind. And that's not an impossibility. He changed his mind on several characters in the past, Pac-Man, Villager, and Mies, as the most recent examples. But at the same time, they didn't have the same issue that Ridley has. His size and all that. And I mean, you can easily work around Pac-Man and the Mies. I think they did it. An unpopular opinion here. I actually love the Mies in this game. I think they handled them pretty well. So, but with Ridley, he's a giant, whatever joke you want to make. He's giant. He's got a, they've made mods that do scale him down, but that's someone else's artistic vision. It's not Sakurai, so he could just as easily not agree with that. And he can always stay stale on Ridley forever, despite what some people would dare and argue. And the second issue, and the second thing that could possibly give him a bigger chance, pun not intended.
Hey, I see it.
Is getting a smaller design in an official Metroid game. And I know you're gonna bring up the Ridley Pokemon from Other M. I know that's not Ridley.
I didn't even think about that.
I know, but if a smaller Ridley with his features was incorporated into a Metroid game, I can easily see Sakurai considering that because of the character's popularity. Unless either of those happen, though, well, he's going to stay a boss.
See, I have an issue with the smaller size thing, and it's just something I was thinking about, because I thought of the same idea. Like, if in a future Metroid game they have another Ridley come and he's smaller, but then would that be the same Ridley, or would it count as a different character? Like, yeah, sure, he might be called Ridley, or Mega Ridley, or Omega Ridley, or Nova Ridley, or something like that. But if it's like a completely different design made to be smaller and is technically like they make him a different character almost, is it still Ridley? Would people be happy with that? He's just given Ridley by name. Not
I think
by
that
design.
leads sort of into my defense of Ridley, which is that I am completely okay with a certain downsizing of the character if it means it still keeps who Ridley is. Like, if you see the Project M mod for Ridley, a lot of people say, oh, it's still too big. I feel like that fits pretty well. Like, it fits, it's on the right track. If one little kid can create that in Project M, an entire dev team with Sakurai, I feel like could make that even better. So that's sort of my argument there. And when it comes to, like, the context of Smash, like you say, like Ridley being way too small, he has to be compared to he has to be compared to Samus in a certain way. I feel like in the context of Smash, Ridley could still be the biggest character.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Ridley could. I have seen that mod. Ridley is. I mean, he's as small as they could get him down to be, but he's bigger than all the other characters.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like that could be his thing, big. Like that could be part of his character.
Yeah, he can be the biggest character. I don't think that's hugely an issue. It's just, when does it stop feeling like how Ridley does? Because the reason Sakurai doesn't like it is because he views Ridley as this big, huge monster that towers over everyone and can destroy things. But he doesn't, like, a smaller version of Ridley wouldn't be Ridley to him, and then he doesn't see the point in adding it. Again,
I'm just playing devil's advocate, but when I think of how Sakurai views Ridley, I can't always take his opinion on Ridley seriously, when, like, the way that they represented his character is a boss that if you beat him up a little bit, he fights for you. Like, that doesn't seem like Ridley's character to me. It doesn't seem like
that is a bit of a unusual thing for Ridley. I mean, unless they had it so that if you use Samus, he never fights for you, then I'd be okay with that. But it'd be a bit broken.
Can I just state an unpopular opinion right here?
Oh, yeah.
I honestly, legitimately believe that the allying mechanic, even though I'm not too big on it myself, I honestly think it was to create a more varied stage boss, make it more hectic, because when you look at the other two stage bosses in Smash 4, Metal Face and Yellow Devil, they're painfully bland by comparison. So, to spice it up a little, we sacrificed one character trait of Ridley to make him more fun, but most hardcore fans are going to deny that and say, oh my god, you hate Ridley, he's not into character. That's just me, though.
When it comes to Ridley's stage boss, this is, again, just conspiracy, but I remember when it was first revealed, like, I haven't seen people talk about this for a while, is the boss really does resemble a character in a way. People were thinking, like, maybe they did try it at some point, and then they just sort of tried something else. Like, I could see that potentially happening, because if you look at his boss, it literally charges up for smash attacks practically, and it does stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like a character model just enlarged.
Well, we can't really say. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, especially with the recent comments about Sakurai thinking about Gino and stuff. It shows that he does listen to fans, and it wouldn't surprise me if he did at one point try maybe to add Ridley, but gave up pretty quickly because he just couldn't see it working.
Yeah.
Or if he had Ridley down as a project in the project plan, not maybe like finalized, but had him scribbled down and thought about it. And then when it came to time to designing it, realised it wouldn't work. I could see that, but I don't really think that... The Shadow, I don't think, showed anything about Ridley being playable. I think that's just people seeing what they want to see, honestly.
Yeah, more I look back on it, more I think so. I was on that train the entire time, too. But, yeah, I think that's my mistake.
Yeah.
I do think that if Sakurai wasn't in charge of the next Smash, do you guys think that he would have a better chance?
I think all the sort of gates for all sorts of characters are open then, because it really comes down to the creative view of the next director, and I think this goes for characters already in the game as well. Like, if we get a new director, then I don't think any veteran is really safe outside of Mario and Link and Samus and, the proper mainstays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic, though. So, when it comes to Ridley, do you guys... Is it sort of unanimous that if the circumstances were different, if, like, he had a design that worked in Smash, would you guys consider him the top candidate?
Yeah, probably. If he had a design that would work in Smash, if they wanted to put him in Smash, he's definitely the other recurring villain, like, the big one.
Yeah, I just find his character really solid. Like, that's my only issue, is that whenever I played Metroid, I've played limited games. I've played Super Metroid, part of Fusion, and the first 2 Primes and part of 3. And every single time Ridley's on screen, like, I was like, oh, it's just a you mean dragon monster. But no, he actually has a compelling character, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, it'd be nice for them to flesh it out a bit more in game. They only ever do it in Zero Mission in the manga. Otherwise, he then, just appears like a giant mindless monster. And I guess Super Metroid, maybe.
Yeah. What do you think, Liquid?
Okay. I've always thought about, the shoe-in mentality that, it's very dangerous to follow it, what happened with Wolf and all that. So if a director change happens, people are going to think, oh my god, Ridley's a shoe-in, he no longer has Sakurai holding him back. I would agree that his chances would be boosted, but I don't think it would be a lock because, there's always the chance of the director, possibly being supervised by Sakurai or something like that, which would potentially diminish his chances as much as that's a bit contradictory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sparks all these conspiracy theories. Sakurai doesn't like Ridley. He's trying to stop the fans.
I sincerely
him the whole time.
Looking to segue into a bit. I don't think Sakurai hates Ridley or the Metroid series. He put a lot of effort into Ridley despite the nuances that people like to complain about, and I think he's just waiting for the right time to include another character. And that applies to other series that people see as neglected, such as Donkey Kong. I mean, they're just biding their time, see when the perfect opportunity springs up.
I think the lack of Donkey Kong stuff is due to just a relevant, not a relevant, say, timing issue of its release, but I'll save that for a different discussion.
Of course.
Yeah.
In terms of Metroid, it's more about, I think Sakurai just doesn't see at this point any other potential characters. Maybe with Federation Force as a spin-off that there is now the possibility of a new main character who could potentially be added to Smash. Or if the Sylux does come back in Prime 4 and it comes out around the same time that another Smash Brothers game would begin development, then Sylux would be highly relevant, and then I think he would have a shot as well.
Yeah, and there's rumors like every year with Retro saying Retro's working on a Metroid game. And this year, of course, it's Retro's working on a Metroid NX, and if that becomes a thing, I mean, there's definitely a chance there.
I don't think they're working on a Metroid NX. I'm just going to say that now.
Yeah, I'm skeptical myself, as much as I would want to believe it. Hey, Retro actually updated their website recently. It doesn't look like something out of 2002 anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, dude. That rumor is happening every single year for E3. Retro's got Metroid. Never happens, but it's always said.
Yeah.
It's just like the new F-Zero rumors and the Pokemon on a console rumor, and
I've always wished that they would do a 2D Metroid game on DS again, like a Fusion sequel or something similar.
maybe they will.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to see at E3
Yeah,
or sooner.
or we won't. Probably. So, all right, guys, that will be the end of Character Corner number 2. Look on the screen here. You guys can see the options for next week. Leave your comment, and I'll tally them up, and we'll have people on next week from Source Gaming. You guys can check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ConnorEatsPants. Do you guys have anything you need to plug?
Go to Source Gaming website, check out our Patreon. I've got quite a few nice series coming up, so look forward to them. Otherwise,
Nan's always working hard on some stuff. Liquid, you?
Well, nothing to plug really, except that I'm gonna have a Fire Emblem Fates review later, but that's until way later, so not really relevant right now.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Remember to vote. We'll see you guys next week.